welcome to my channel, Haylee Marie Vintage. We are doing a different type of crafty thing this Friday here on the channel, although I'll be doing it over several days. So recently for Christmas, I asked for like a Rolife Booknook. Well, I didn't ask for a Booknook. I asked for anything from their miniature collection, and I got the Booknook. I think it's super cute. I'm really excited to use it, and I just kind of wanted to do it on camera for funsies, but also because last year I did the something brands, new brands, mini brands, make it mini brands. I did the little balls that you unpack and they have like random things in them and you make them into the food. And I kind of like did that and reviewed this on this channel. So I thought it would be fun to do the same for this box here. I have higher expectations. Ugh. For this box overall, I would say, just because it's like a whole little kit as opposed to one little item. I have no idea how hard this is gonna be, but basically today I'm just opening it up, looking at the instructions, because my understanding from reading reviews is they don't provide a few things that you need. So my plan this afternoon is to go to Michael's to pick up what I need that is not in this kit, or Joann's. We'll see which one I go to. I need to check if I have some thread colors for a project. Oh, and this is the Rolife Booknook and Wonderland Garden House edition. I'm actually really excited. I didn't put which one I wanted on my wish list because I wanted to be surprised for Christmas, and my mom delivered. It's almost like she read my mind. This is probably my favorite one they've ever put out. Oh, look at how cute that is with the little cartoon drawing on it. Only bummer being the foil. Foil often makes things not recyclable anymore, which is okay because I'm gonna use this box for shipping anyway. Alrighty, wow. This is what it looks like when you first open it. It looks like, oh, is it all, oops. Fascinating. Well, I'm making maybe a disaster. Where did that go? Oh, maybe it does come with glue. I read that it doesn't come with the glue you need. Okay. But this looks like glue to me. So it looks like I have a battery pack here for a light, some dowels, some little blue plastic pieces that I know build up the seed packets. I have some fake plant stuff. This looks like a lamp. This looks like a chair. And then I have the instruction booklet. So this hopefully will tell me if I need anything additionally. 2 controllable lights. Various plans, blah, 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 blah. Icon illustration. This is quite a book. So where is the English instructions? I could challenge my Spanish and read this in Spanish, but that is not my plan. Okay, I found what looks like English instructions. How to deal with loose parts, apply some glue. Tips of glue. Glue is a complimentary gift and not part of the product. If you encounter issues such as glue spillage, drying out, expiration, you may use your own glue. Wow, so I might not even have to take a trip to Michael's. This is wild. Where did I just put that glue? There it is. So I guess I should check if it's dried out. I think it looks good to go. That's actually really exciting because, yeah, I was planning on having to buy something additionally. Oh, cute. It looks like I'm looking at all their other Booknooks. I definitely think I got my favorite one. Holy moly. There are so many pieces in this. But I'm really excited. I am excited to take you through it, I guess, step by step, give my thoughts on how easy or hard this is, knowing that, you know, I put together complicated 1940s patterns, sometimes with no instructions. So I feel like this has to be easier than that, but that is famous last words. I am debating whether I'm just going to go ahead and get some glue anyway in case I find myself not liking this glue, because I do have glues that I prefer. So I'm going to think on it, but for now, that's boringly it for today. So, see you tomorrow. All right, we're on the next day. I have a variety of glues here. Spooky says hello. I will be keeping her away during glue usage. So I have some Elmer's glue that I just have in my stash, as well as a glue stick. And I also got some E600 Plus low odor. If I end up needing this glue, my plan is to start with their glue, but I'm just skeptical how much I'll like it. So I wanted to pick up my favorite super glue. And then the other glues are, there's like a lot of paper pieces and I'm not sure what I'm gonna have to like do with that. I was real quick looking at reviews and it looks like this should take somewhere between 6 and 8 hours. I'm gonna time it. I'll let you know how long it takes me. We'll see. I'll be very, very interested. I've started reading the instructions. This thing looks really intense, but I'm gonna hop into it. My first step here is to get acquainted with all the different pieces that are involved in this kit. I guess I could probably do a count, but there were a lot of pieces, so I was just trying to figure out what was what, where things were located, what colors different letters were, things like that, so I could get like in a good flow to actually build this thing. I will say I never got in the best of flow, but I think that's just because I had a smaller desk to work with. I think if you had a bigger table where you could lay everything out, it would work a lot better. But I am starting by just grabbing the pieces that the first steps say to start getting everything put together. Something that impressed me throughout this project for the most part is one of the biggest things with miniature sets or any sort of like set that you're gonna put together, sometimes the cuts aren't accurate and it takes a lot of work to get things to actually align like they should. While sometimes it took a good amount of force to put pieces in this together, I don't feel like it was ever a whole misalignment problem. It was just more a certain things took a certain amount of strength because you're combining materials here. The main part of this first assembly is the stairs, which I think is smart because the stairs are pretty rewarding to see come to fruition. With a miniature kit, you don't want to start with something too boring or too hard because people will disengage, and I think this was the right amount of skill and like excitement putting it together. To start here, once I got used to the way the instructions are written, every instruction takes a learning curve. This is true in sewing. It's not surprising that it's true for miniature set. I figured out where to find where all the pieces were. For a minute, I kind of struggled here. However, I do think it worked out really well to also kind of start with this yellow door pretty early that got you into the bag pieces and some of the more colorful and vibrant parts, because for me this was the really exciting part of the kit and I loved the feel of the glass when I popped in. Overall, I would just say this kit felt very, very luxe. I have a lot of sensory issues, specifically with wood textures, and I did not get triggered at all during this whole make. And so I just think they did an excellent job with that, and I loved making this tiny little door with the glass pane and putting in the doorknob. I will say I had some trickery. They have like really thick cardstock that you kind of punch out, and I had kind of a hard time getting that to glue down correctly, but other than that, I thought this was pretty easy. Next up was my first piece of furniture, which was this little yellow table with lots of plants on it. With every bit of this, again, I felt like I worked up skills. The first bit was a lot of putting like the big thicker wooden pieces together, and then I worked up to the door, and now here we're getting a piece of furniture assembled. I did find that I couldn't press hard enough on the surface it's actually supposed to be on to get like the tabletop to sit down on it correctly, and I think that's just because like there's no structure underneath this. So I ended up assembling it on the table before popping it into its spot. And then I got to start working with some new things like the different little pieces of paper that you punch out with the plants. I did learn here that a delicate touch is needed. With the cactus, I kind of pushed it in really, really hard and bent it, and it didn't work out great. So you do have to be careful with these like little cardboard pieces, but they are still overall pretty sturdy, I will say. I did disagree with the directions here though, which had you put the plants down first, and then this wooden box thing you had to press a lot harder for. In general, having to press hard around this lighter cardstock is not a good idea. So I took all the plants I had already put in there out, got this all pressed together, and then stuck all the plants back in. And luckily I was able to cover my bent cactus behind this. And here I'm working on this kind of collage vibe with some stickers that you put down, and then again this lighter cardstock frames that you put down. I still struggled to get the right type of glue for this. I decided a glue stick didn't work because it didn't dry down fast enough, so I did start using my E600 with a pin to like actually have accuracy on where it goes, because even though I didn't do the best job of it on this project, I was trying not to have glue be visible all the time. And once that was all decorated, I snapped it into place. There were a few different points here to get it attached to. I overall feel like it would have been nice. We don't actually put on the base towards the end, which in some ways caused me a little bit of a struggle. I wouldn't have minded having more of a base to snap some things into from the get-go, even though I don't know that that necessarily works with like their ethos as miniature kit makers. But I did eventually get it in, and it's starting to look really cute, and I'm getting really, really excited. From here, I get to punch out all the little railings and get that assembled. This was really easy and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I also, you can see, put up the lattice work that you can see back there. Now I get to start putting together one of the more complex pieces of furniture, in my opinion, which is the little seed pattern cart. I first started by building the flower box up on top, which I think is so cute. And from there, we're sticking in the sides before then popping this in like the instructions say to the actual house. In retrospect, I think I would have finished the whole thing and then popped it in because I just didn't quite like this order of operations. Like with sewing, I just followed the instructions completely like I did when I was a beginner sewist because a lot of times the instruction writers know things that you don't. However, as far as order of operations, I did these two pieces of furniture with building them kind of more directly in the frame, and I found that didn't work great for me, and the next few pieces of furniture are designed to be built not there, so I think that overall worked best for me. Again, all of this is like preference. This is a high quality kit where the pieces fit together, so I don't have a ton of complaints, and trust me, I have had plenty of kits or sewing patterns that things did not fit together as expected. I will say overall building the front of this felt maybe a little overcomplicated. Like, I don't know, I feel like you needed the 3D elements here, but that's just a critique of the design. The kit worked as is. This just was probably one of the more fiddly bits that I didn't enjoy as much. This with then also there's like some sticker wrap things that I had to figure out and glue in and stuff. And so yeah, I don't know that it was 100% my favorite part of this puzzle. However, all things said, it wasn't that bad. Also, I suppose it was a good thing that this was nice towards the back because I don't feel like I got the rolled up bits to look particularly good. So the fact that they're in the background and you don't see them as well is probably a good thing. And once I pop that on, we're about halfway done with the instructions. However, these ones, we start to get into more compounded instructions. Like the earlier part of the book was more step by step, and here there's maybe more moving pieces. So one step is maybe 3 steps or even 4 steps. So this is actually a denser part. So I expect it to take a little bit longer than the front half. But first we're starting by making this little planter that sits next to the blue seed cabinet. For this plant, you use kind of like a little rolling technique, and they have a tool that you punch out to do this. I think this is great because honestly, while I didn't use the tool that much, I actually found myself able to roll it tighter without the tool. If you had some like hand mobility issues, I mean, this wouldn't be a great kit for you overall, but like this could help with some of like the fiddly bits that might be more challenging, and so I think this is actually a pretty effective accessibility tool, even if I didn't use it. But my fine motor skills are quite intense from all my years of sewing, so I was able to skip it, but I think it was a really good thing to use for people who maybe don't have those skills. Also, they then have you kind of like do the blend bending and shaping of the plant. I don't know that I could ever get this exactly where I was satisfied, but I don't approach projects like this with a perfectionist attitude, so I was able to get it somewhere I was happy with. Next up are some books, which I am so excited to make. I could not wait to work on the little books. I think little miniature books are some of the cutest things ever. I've been debating, I've seen on TikTok like a lot of different methods people use to like track the books they read each year using little miniatures, and I've been debating that. So I was so excited to make these little books. These were made using wraparound stickers, and I think they turned out really cute. I feel like my camera did a really bad job at picking anything up on how I built these. I will say my camera is not built for miniatures, so the focus is a little bit iffy sometimes. But my next step is to put the books together on the little bookshelf, and they're turning out so cute, and I'm so happy. And from here I move on to building other little parts of the bookshelf that these books sit on. I guess it's not necessarily a bookshelf, it's more of just a general shelf, but there were all sorts of fun things, little things I got to make on this, including here where I got to work with my first little plant pots that were exciting. These plant pots kind of looked like beads, even though they definitely weren't. I did cheat a little bit and use some glue where instead parts were supposed to stick together, but I didn't find them sticking together so well. But then after that, I built up the shelf, put some of the final things on it, and we have the cutest little thing. It seems like we have reached the part of the project where the furniture is just going to be made separately and then popped all in at once, which is exciting because this is the way I would prefer to make my furniture. But look at how cute this little shelf is. So it is the next day. I have been working on this for about 2.5 hours at this point. Yesterday, I got a little bit less time than I hoped. I hope to have worked on it 4 hours, but this is what I have so far. This and this little guy here. It's really, really cute. It's been pretty easy so far and very enjoyable, and I'm definitely looking forward to the rest of the process. I am right now, I think, in like the furniture building portion because I just made this guy and it looks like I have a lamp and either a chair or a table that I'll be making. But yeah, so far it's been very fun, very relaxing, and I'm excited to continue the project. That does not stand if it is not in its thing. I don't know, nothing really else to note but that, but we're gonna just keep on going here. The next thing I focused on was building the lamp. I was excited to get to these parts because it involved some of the wiring that I was excited and nervous for, but honestly this was one of the most straightforward parts of the build because it's basically like how you would wire a real lamp, but way less complicated. So it worked really, really well for me. So I quickly moved on to the lamp to another little like cart build up shelf thing that is going to have a lot of little plants. Here I am first starting with this little box that's going to sit on the top. And with this I get to use my first bit of like the 3D little plasticky plant. I tried to read the instructions for proper cutting and I read them incorrectly, so I have kind of a weird cut of a plant, but that's okay. I ended up using everything in the end anyway, but this is all a learning curve and I didn't like notice a mistake that I made was a disaster in any way, shape, or form. I will say I really struggled at this step here where you're trying to get the cart to all sit together while keeping the plant in it, and my plant kept moving and falling over and it was a bit of a trip. So I did end up again cheating and gluing it down. Overall, I found there's like little pegs in these pots that help supposedly keep the pot sitting exactly the way you want it to. I found in general that I didn't like these and I didn't think they were effective and I just preferred to use glue, even though it definitely looked less clean. But as you can see, I'm just really struggling here. And I overall just felt like I struggled with the little pins that are in the little pots to keep it down. I would have almost just preferred having the expectation of gluing this. But I did finally triumph and I am now popping the top of this little shelf on and you can see the plant underneath that is been glued down into submission. So now I can focus on something else. The little box has been stuck on top and now I'm getting ready for all the other things that go up there. This little planter gets to have a tulip featured, and in this case they very smartly used these tulips to like give just a more three-dimensional effect from the side of the cart that you're actually going to see. I just overall think this is so well designed and very impressive. And here I am again cheating and using glue to put, there's like a spilled plant vibe happening here. And I glued the flower in and then now I'm gluing it tipped over. Sorry, my camera is still struggling to focus. I'm still on my learning curve, but I do look at this. This cart is turning out very cute. And my next step here is to set up the chair. This was, I think, one of the easiest parts of the kit, and I think that's just because plastic overall just has a little bit more flexibility than wood. So I was able to do this really, really quickly, and it just made a lot of sense in my mind. So I guess no complaints here. I love this tiny little chair, and I love that it actually rocks and that I never have to glue it down. So this chair was supposed to have a blanket on it, as well as this pillow, and I ended up scrapping the blanket because I thought, honestly, the fabric just looked really cheap and I didn't think it added that much to the miniature, so I just used the pillow. Again, forgive me for the blurry footage, but now I get to pop all these different pieces of furniture where they go with the cart and the lamp. And with the first lamp made, it is now time to focus on the second light, which will be the hanging light. This is the only like cutting and measuring they have you do for this project, which is very impressive when you think about how many pieces are involved. I will say I accidentally cut one of the pieces and it flew, so I'm digging that up. This is the only point. There's 3 pieces basically that I had to cut and measure, and they provided a ruler, so I thought that was great. And again, I'm pretty impressed by this kit. Once I have all the parts of the wiring are going to go through, cut, and lined up, I am now grabbing out the final materials for the little hanging lamp. This has the longer wire, and again, this was really, really straightforward. And again, it didn't feel that different from how kind of wiring in a house works, with the little plastic pieces being if you were to have like a cord that you were running down and had a cord cover. It's just kind of funny how similar some of this miniature stuff felt. Although, of course, I just got to do it with my fingers instead of standing on a step stool or ladder while we are working on how to make sure we don't blow any fuses or circuits and things. So obviously this is a lot easier, but it's just still funny to me how similar this process is to how actually wiring like lighting is. And with that part done, I then snapped it up on the top. You can see the lamp sitting there. And the next step is getting in all the wisteria, which if you have been around this channel, you know I adore wisteria. So I was really excited that this project involved it, and I get to actually assemble it, and this was just really interesting. I'll probably hop us into super speed mode while I real quick explain what's going on here. So basically, I think it's 4 or 5 rows of wisteria up at the top with little slashes that you kind of set it in gently, but the individual pieces you first kind of punch out the cardboard base, and then you have other little pieces that through little like tabs and slashes you put it in there to give it this more 3D look, and it is really successful. I will say overall I felt like I tended to bend the paper in a way that it started to not look very natural. I was not the most delicate or professional or perfection-y about this, so if you gave it more care it would probably have turned out better. Before this step I thought that I really felt this was coming to life, but this just like really added that next level touch on how quickly I feel like this kit is going from kind of some boring fundamental architecture to something really, really fun. Here I have a little basket that I'm working on that involves rolling some paper up to like put in it. I don't know if it's supposed to be like fabric, or I don't quite know, I guess, what this basket has to do with gardening, but it was fun to use a slightly different set of skills, even if this was maybe not my favorite process. I do still think the final product turned out really cute. Okay, so now we're to the point in the project of the only thing I did not like aesthetically. I hated these little boots, but because they draw where things go on the thing, I couldn't skip it without having like a clear missing piece. So I did the like pasting the plant in the boot, like cheesy thing. But yeah, I think these boots overall just don't fit with the vibe of the rest of the project. I think they're pretty ugly and I would have loved to skip them. I also think the scale's off. I don't know. There's just something about these boots that I'm not a fan of. Like I said, I would have had this weird outline spot if I hadn't done it. So I went ahead and put them in. But it is where I wish for some things they maybe didn't put those dotted lines so you actually had some freedom in where you could move things without leaving clear marks on the floor. And I've now made it to some of the other more functional things. Here I am making, it's this little window on the side that you can open and close. Once my project is in its final spot, I will keep this window closed because it makes the like profile of the Booknook a little bit bigger than I want. But I do think it's really, really cool that you can open and close this and just dynamically change the miniature a little bit. I think that's really effective. So it is finally time to start sticking in the walls. I'm starting with the first side of the wall. I went ahead and tipped over the whole miniature, and this is where it's great, of course, that you have things like very stuck in, so stuff isn't just like rolling all around, although you can tell I did not glue the basket down enough, and I have all these little paper things, so that's not great, but I'll get that all put back together. But basically the walls are all a layer of plastic with then a layer of wood, the plastic being the windows of the greenhouse and then the wood being the final thing. I will say this is where, which this makes sense because you're towards the end, not all the notches were as easy to line, and I would put these on user error as opposed to a bad kit, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm basically just rotating this thing around and getting all the sides on it as the instructions demand. It is at this point that I did glue down the lamp. I think I missed that step because the lamp was flopping all over while I was working on this, but I got the 2 sidewalls on, and so I think it was time to focus on the roof. But first I had to put in these little braces that are going to hold more wisteria again. And after a quick break for lunch, I'm continuing along with popping on the front of the garden house. This is so cute, and I'm getting really excited. And now I'm reading the instructions for the roof. The process for the roof was really similar to that for the walls, where I'm laying down plastic first, and then I will lay down the wood to match. I will say this was one of the places that I had the hardest time getting all the pieces to click. And again, I think that's to like user error and me not necessarily achieving perfection in my measurements, not a kit error in of itself. And with the roof on, it's now time to start focusing on some other things like wiring, which it should technically be within my skill set. I have quite a bit of circuit knowledge, but this still made me kind of the most nervous nonetheless. I will say, for this being what I dreaded the most, this was super, super clear instructionally on how to put this together. If circuits just in general make you nervous and getting electricity right makes you nervous, first of all, this is very low stakes. You can't, I don't think, disclaimer, I guess I don't know, you can't really electrocute yourself with this. I mean, you can burn out the lights and then they won't work, but that's not an end of the world thing here. And overall, I felt pretty comfortable getting the wiring for this all set up. And they even have like ways to secure the wiring down. This is just very, very, very well thought out. After that is wrapped up, I am now sticking on the stairs, which is kind of the last step. I'm just putting those in the front before I will eventually shove some of the loose pieces I have in here. But I think this is turning out so cute, and I'm really, really excited to show you guys more. Once I get the steps glued on, I'm then going to glue this plant. Somehow I ended up with a very, very tall plant. So we're just going to have a taller plant in front than the imagery shows, which is okay. I think one of the best part is when you can make these kits sort of unique. Bear with me as I try to not give you too shaky of footage, but I just want to show you some of the final functionality. You can see that the window opens and closes. I'm trying to zoom you in here so you can see all the little furniture and the little world this is created with the wisteria. I think it is absolutely so fun. Like, look at this for the front. This is going to be how it sits in my bookcase, and I'm pretty excited about it. And then it's also really pretty from the sides. I don't know. I think this is something, because I have seen all the details, but this is something that I think you could stare at quite a bit if you hadn't. And I absolutely adore the, like, wisteria up at the top. I think the way they had you put that together was very, very clever. I also kind of wanted to get you a view of, like, the little balcony with the door, and then we'll, I guess, kind of pan down to where the chair is. I'm very, very pleased with this, and I think it's really cute, and I love the little rose and the shovel. I just think this is phenomenal. I also think it is a nice touch to have the back have this nice little illustration on it too, even though no one will probably ever see it. All right, you have seen this whole process. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, but now I'm going to go into like my final thoughts on this project, and Spooky is going to aggressively look at me. I just got home, so she's probably wanting some attention. What I have here is everything I have at the end of the project. So one of the big things I talked about when I did the Make It mini series is how bad the trash felt. Here we're in a slightly better state. This here is my pile of plastic trash, and over here you can see a pile of wooden trash. So as far as plastic, the biggest thing I have is this is no recycling number. I don't think I can recycle this, so that is relatively significant in the plastic trash. And I know I have plenty of things that have come. They can now make these little trays out of cardboard. So I would love to see a change in the packaging towards sustainability in that way. Other than that though, the plastic trash isn't too bad. I just have this little pile here. I think I can strip the plastic film off and put it in my plastic film recycler program at the grocery store. There's some little tiny pieces here that like I feel kind of okay putting in the trash. So overall, I would say the plastic trash doesn't feel too bad. This is like the wood and cardboard trash. A lot of this I can recycle. I'm going to look at, it might be possible for some of these wood pieces to actually put it in my city compost. I need to do some research on if that is actually the case. Even if something goes to landfill, I feel better if it is not plastic, because obviously plastic will be around forever. So wood in general feels more okay. And in general, I just feel like, I don't know if you guys remember, but when I did the Make It mini series, I had so much trash, and then you have the balls that came in. It's just a whole big trash fest. So I definitely feel better about this project from a trash perspective. And reading their site, it seems like they do think a bit about its sustainability. I would say they aren't as sophisticated as I personally would want to like fully endorse a brand. But as you guys know, I have very, very, very high standards for sustainability as well as like ethics as a business. And I will say, while for me they are not perfect, I would absolutely purchase from them again without like a ton of guilt. They write a nice line there, but like, would I 100% recommend them? Probably not. They have lots of plastic houses you can make and things like that. and I would love to see them continue or start to move towards just having wood and more sustainable products. As far as this itself, I am extremely happy with this product. This is so cute. I love looking at this. It just makes me really, really, really happy. I'm very, very happy with this. Biggest thing is I have not gotten the wiring to work yet. I suspect, and I need to go pick up more batteries. It might just be the batteries. For some reason, I think I bought a bad pack of Duracell batteries because I've had issues with almost all the batteries in it working. So I suspect that's what's happening here. If I get around to getting new batteries before this video goes live, I'll comment that in the description. If not, I will try to comment an update whenever I get there. But yeah, I think this is super cute. And as far as the process, the instructions for this were fantastic. Looking through the parts I have left, I missed 2 steps and 2 instructions. I have 2 pieces that didn't make it in the puzzle that should have. And that's not too bad considering how many pieces this was. I didn't count up, but I believe this is like well over an 100-piece puzzle. So the fact that the instructions were clear enough that I only missed 2 pieces, I don't care that much about. One of them I skipped purposely because I didn't like how it looked. So yeah, this was a joy to put together, and I enjoyed every single step of it for the most part. I found very little frustrating. Most things I found more like if I was going to critique them, I would just say some things were kind of fussy, but when you're working in miniature, there's just going to be some fussy things. Now for downsides. This is not a downside for me because I knew what I was getting into. If you're a highly creative person who wants to be able to really make this your own, this is not the type of project for you. This is a very much everything in its place. So something I didn't, I think, quite realize going into this kit is that you can't kind of like loosey-goosey free make these, right? Because like we're talking about the fact the furniture snaps in. So you can't rearrange the room in whatever way you desire. And like there might be a world where I would have loved to be able to like use museum wax and rearrange this room as my little heart desires. This is not going to be a puzzle that lets you do that. I talked about that actually when I covered putting in the boots. I don't like the boots. I think they're ugly, but because they have a whole drawing on the floor showing where you put the boots, you feel like you have to put them in. And then all the different slots and things that all the things on the shelves go on, you have to put them for the most part where you're instructed to. So if you want something higher creativity, I probably wouldn't recommend this, but you're going to look at something really, really expensive, because I also wanted to talk about this from like an economical perspective. I think for a really, really cute and honestly really beautifully designed miniature, I want to really emphasize this. I think the coloring for this is beautiful. The details are beautiful. Again, the instructions were beautiful. I think the quality is really fantastic. I think this one is 56 or 57 US dollars. And if you think back to when I made the Make It Mini miniatures, those I think were somewhere between $6 and $9 for just making one thing. So essentially this would be the equivalent of 5 of those. So I think you're getting a really good value here. There were no toxic chemicals in it, unlike the Make It Minis with the resin. I don't think their glue is particularly toxic. If you've wanted to explore miniatures or you've wanted to explore kind of little scenes like this or a Booknook, highly recommend this product. And I guess like this is not sponsored. Obviously this is not sponsored because I have given a pretty robust critique as well. But yeah, I would highly recommend this if you just kind of want to dabble, because I kind of wanted to dabble a little. I'm going to a miniature conference actually next weekend, so I think it'll be fun to maybe pick up some things to put together something like this myself. But I'm going to also tell you it will be much more expensive, because I will say miniatures can feel like a kind of challenging hobby to get into, because miniatures is a lot of people hand making stuff, and so stuff is really expensive. And I feel like this was a great way to get a really put together miniature on like a relative budget. I just think this was so well thought out. This is just a very well thought out product, and I say that about very few products. So that is super high praise for me. I am going to give you a picture. I have decided on its final home. I have a bookcase that has an empty gap that I think would be perfect for this. So I'll pop in a picture of that here. And yeah, I think that basically wraps this up. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them down below in the comments. If you're new here, this is not my usual channel content. I focus on a lot of sewing patterns. And I guess like on a caveat, I am very, very well practiced in following instructions on really, really detailed things. So this was super easy for me. I do have this ranked as an intermediate. So keep that in mind. Keep in mind that while it took me 5 hours and 45 minutes, it might take you longer, because the other thing I didn't do is there were a lot more like perfectionist-y, technickety things you could do. Like you can sand where all the different, like, the points where it was attached in. Like, there's a lot of things you could do to make this extra nice. That's not my vibe. That's not the type of maker I am, so I did not do that. So I can definitely see how this could start taking you 6 to 8 hours, which is what I kind of found on the internet as the estimated time. Yeah, I also just would be curious, would you use this product? Comment down below. I'd love your thoughts. And other than that, I will see you next time. And as always, I will have a sewing video up again next Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. And I will see you then. Bye!